Today's conversation is one that sits right at the intersection of something I talk about often: connection, community, and the reality that healing doesn't come from one place, one program, or one prescription. It comes from environments, from people, and from moments that allow us to reconnect with ourselves in ways we didn't expect. And that's exactly where today's guest lives and works. I'm honored to welcome Brian Cain. Brian is a United States Marine Corps veteran who served as a military working dog handler from 2001 to 2005, a role that requires not just technical skill, but deep trust, discipline, and partnership. After his military service, he continued serving his community in law enforcement in Metro Atlanta, working as a patrol officer, an undercover narcotics agent, a patrol supervisor, and even as a chaplain, walking alongside people in some of the most complex and difficult moments of their lives. That through line, service, presence, and showing up in the hard places, has never left him. Today, Brian serves as the executive director for development at Guitars for Vets, a national nonprofit that is doing something both beautifully simple and profoundly effective. Founded in 2007 by Patrick Netsheim, a Vietnam-era veteran, and Dan Van Buskirk, a professional guitarist, Guitars for Vets was built on a powerful idea that music can reach places words often cannot. What started as a small program in Milwaukee has grown into a nationwide initiative serving thousands of veterans. The model is intentionally human and relational. Veterans receive free one-on-one guitar instructions from trained volunteers, followed by a structured curriculum designed not just to teach music, but rebuild confidence, create routine, and foster connection. At the end of the program, each participant is gifted a brand new guitar, something that becomes theirs to keep, to continue the process to create, to regulate, and to reconnect. This isn't about becoming a musician. It's about rediscovering rhythm. It's about finding a way back to yourself. And that's where Brian's leadership comes in. His work is focused on expanding that reach, building partnerships, strengthening infrastructure, and ensuring that programs like this don't just exist, but scale, sustain, and meet people where they are. Because Brian understands something deeply. Through his own lived experience, that meaningful change doesn't happen in isolation. It happens in environments where people feel seen, supported, and connected. In addition to his leadership work, Brian is also a writer and speaker who tackles the realities of anxiety, trauma, identity, and growth after adversity with honesty and clarity. No fluff, no performative narratives, just real conversations about what it actually looks like to move forward. And when he's not doing all of that, he's at home in Northeast Alabama with his wife of 24 years, Lacey, and their sons, building a life that reflects the same values he brings to his work: grounded, intentional, and deeply connected. Homesteading, raising animals, growing food, creating quite literally a different kind of environment. So today, we're going to talk all about it: the role of creativity in healing, what connection actually looks like after service, and why programs like Guitars for Vets matter, and how we start thinking differently, not just about treatment, but about the environments we build for post-traumatic growth. I'm Jen Wagman, and this is Vetted. Hi, Brian. It's so nice of you to join me today. Thank you. I really appreciate that you could be here. You are from Guitars for Vets, and I think I found you as you did a skit. I don't know what else to call it, online with a few other gentlemen, and I was really impressed by your ability to do the arts. And so we became sort of LinkedIn friends, and I looked into some more of what you do, and I wanted to have you come share your service organization. So why don't you introduce yourself to the audience here.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for having me on, Jen. And yeah, that was Chris Lancia and I believe Matt, Chris and Matt and I. I've known those guys for about a year and a half now, and both of those guys are just doing
They're
incredible work
characters.
in the what's that?
They're characters.
They are characters, especially Chris. Matt is he's not a public character, but he is definitely a character for sure. Um, so thank you so much for having me on. My name is Brian Cain. I'm the development director for a veteran mental health nonprofit called Guitars for Vets, where we put the healing power of music into the hands of our nation's veterans. And we do that through a 10-week one-on-one guitar instruction program where we pair a veteran with a guitar instructor for one-on-one lessons for 10 weeks. At the end of those 10 weeks, the veteran graduates from our program and they receive a brand new guitar and grad pack.
That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. And so in the 10-week program, do you
Mhm.
have to have any experience going in?
None whatsoever. I'm a graduate of the program, and I had absolutely that much guitar playing experience when I started. I knew how to hold a guitar. I knew how to, uh, where my hands went in relation to the outline of a guitar, but I had no musical ability and still don't have any musical ability. And here's the real beauty of our program. When people leave the military, they all say something around this idea of they they leave the military and then they miss the clowns but not the circus.
That's
And
fun.
so we just provide a place for the clowns to get back together. So we really are just a community that is offered to veterans, because that's what, when veterans leave the military, that's what they miss, is they miss the community. And we just offer that again. We have 100 and I think we're at 155 chapters across the United States, and we do all of this. We graduated 18,000 veterans through our program in 19 years, and we've done that with an army of almost 1,000 volunteers. So there's only three full-time paid staff members, two part-time staff members. Then all the chapters are volunteer led, and all the instructors are volunteers. So we do a lot with a little, and we couldn't do anything without those volunteers being the hands and feet of our organization. We're incredibly thankful for them.
That's phenomenal. And are the guitars, everyone gets a guitar? Did I hear that correctly?
Mhm.
Every graduate gets a guitar.
Yes, ma'am.
How are they procured by the organization?
So, Guitars for Vets is one of the largest private buyers of guitars. So we have a partnership with an organization. If you're in the music industry, you'll know the name. We order all of our guitars through a company called Sweetwater Music, and we get them for just such a ridiculous price because we buy 2,000 guitars a year. So we get to reap the benefit of having a really good deal through them, basically as a distributor. So we buy those guitars through donations that we receive through corporations and individuals. Our giving is 60% individuals and 20% corporations, and then kind of miscellaneous throughout the 990 verbiage, from all the rest of the
Grants
resources.
and donation and foundations and things like
Hmm.
that.
Yep.
Okay. That's really wonderful. So you have quite a grassroots sort of following then if you're doing 60% from individual donations. That's really, really impressive.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
speaks volumes.
We have quite a following online, and then our chapters themselves just contribute so much to that individual fundraising. And that's really where the magic happens, is at the chapter level. They develop relationships with other local veteran nonprofits like the VFW and American Legion and DAV, and those organizations have a lot of residual money left at the end of the year, and they can give it to whoever they choose to give it to, and often they choose to give it to us. Our chapters are out doing fundraising at festivals, playing in venues, raising awareness for the organization, raising funding for the organization. I mean, my job is so easy compared to what they're doing and the effort that they're putting in. I'm telling you, I can't say it enough. We couldn't do what we do without them.
Well, I did a little bit of research and looking into. I understand that there's one or two or three really famous supporters that you have as well that are really into what you do. Why don't you talk about that a little bit?
So, famous, I'm learning it means different things to different people. So,
Well, they're famous to me.
right, yeah. We have there's a gentleman by the name of Tommy Emmanuel who's an incredible supporter of ours. A matter of fact, one of our Oregon chapters just they just received tickets to his show that he did out there, and he got him hooked up and did the whole deal with him. So we love Tommy. He's been a great supporter of us. Craig Morgan is another really good supporter of ours. Uh, if you watch Craig in any of his, for about the last year, any of his performances on his guitar, he actually has one of our stickers on his guitar.
Mhm.
And Craig, we did a songwriters retreat at his place up in Alaska last year. He's just such an incredible friend of the organization. And you know, there's there's other levels of fame.
Okay, I'm talking the Eagles and I'm talking country music.
Yeah, yeah. We have an ambassador by the name of Pete, and he has a website called Pete's Diary, and I'll just Google Pete's Diary. I don't want to mess up the story, but Pete is he embodies what our mission is, even though he's not a veteran. He was born with some very significant health challenges and has used music as a way to cope with those things. And Pete is just such an incredible supporter of ours too. He's worked with another organization to develop a guitar pedal, and all the proceeds from the pedal come to us. It's so cool. We have so many people out there that love us and support what we do, and we're incredibly thankful for it. I'm humbled by it.
All right, I'm talking about a country music star. Um, Pete's great, but let's talk about modern country. You know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, Luke Combs.
Oh, there's
Luke
the guy. Yeah.
Luke teamed up with the Ford Motor Company, and they donated $25,000 worth of guitars to the organizations a couple years ago. And man, we took that donation and put the guitars right directly into the hands of our graduates that year, and we're incredibly thankful for Luke and Ford Philanthropy and all the efforts that they do to support us. Matter of fact, we did something cool with Ford last year. Ford Philanthropy did an event every year. They do it every year, but it's called the Ford Bronco Off Rodeo. So they take veterans, get them all together, and send them out to one of their Ford Bronco training courses, and you get to go put the super high end Broncos through their paces and all
Stop
that
it.
kind of stuff. And man, it was such a great time. We got an invite to that through Blue Star Families, and so we're incredible. Thank you to Penny at Blue Star Families for inviting us along for that ride.
You know, I work with
Then,
Blue Star Families too, so I'm going to have to work on getting an invite to that. Okay.
yeah, absolutely. And then Blue Star Families invited us to take part in a TikTok live benefit concert in Nashville. So we got to go up to Nashville and meet all the folks at Ford. Bill Ford was there, and I got to meet Justin Nunley while I was up there. And there's all kinds of social media influencers up there that we got to sit and chat with.
I'm not an influencer.
Yeah.
This is about as big as my influence gets right here, you and me.
Well, mine too, for sure. Like I couldn't call Justin by any stretch of the imagination,
Cool.
but now they did TikTok live stream the concert and took donations during that concert, and then they split those donations between the 10 organizations that were there. So just we've been super thankful for all the stuff that Ford is and Blue Star Families has invited us to.
Well, okay, so that's why country music rocks. And let me tell you something. As soon as I get my Gen Vets project started with the farm, I am going to buy myself a big fat truck because the mom car days are over and
Yep.
I have been eyeing all of them. And it is going to be the statement that Jen has arrived. I cannot tell you how much I can't wait for this day. It's honestly the only thing I dream about. So I don't know what that says about my dreams. I dream in big red
I
truck.
understand.
Yeah.
I understand.
Well, that's just amazing. I'm really happy about how this is. When I read everything, I was, I grew up playing the piano. Music is such a huge part of my life. And there's a project that I'm working on separately. It'll probably take another year with the way things are going with everything else, but it's a slow roll type of thing. I think music is so important for healing and honestly communication, when it comes to veterans and military families. So I'm really impressed with that. Tell me a little bit about yourself. How did you come to this? Your military service?
Sure. So I before my military service, it was law enforcement service. So I started in law enforcement in the year 2000.
Okay.
I'm that old, and I got hired at 19 years old to work as a detention officer. I worked in the jail, and I had such an eye opening experience working there. But I was still young. I was still very naive. And one of my training officers pulled me aside and was like, Brian, you can stick around here and continue to do this, but you need some life experience, buddy. You should probably go join the military. And so I did. I went and I joined the Marine Corps. Um, and one day after I was waiting to go off boot camp, still working at the sheriff's office, and then one morning I got off of work and I was standing in my living room and turned on the TV and watched the second airplane hit the World Trade Center, and my entire life changed. I got a phone call from my recruiter. He said, "Hey, I'm sure you've seen the news. Your timeline's been bumped up. You're going in August, or I'm sorry, you're going in October." So I spent, Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's at Paris Island, South Carolina in 2001. And I served as a bomb dog handler from 2001 into 2005. Never deployed, never had the opportunity to deploy. Um, my wife and I got married while I was in, and my wife and I had a kid. That's like, this is really no lifestyle to raise a child in. So I left the military, went back into law enforcement in Metro Atlanta, where I served as a patrol officer and undercover narcotics agent, a supervisor, a chaplain. I just kind of run the gamut. I really did everything in my law enforcement service, and uh, and I tell everybody that I left law enforcement because it took everything from me except my marriage. It took my soul, it took my compassion, it turned me into a person that I never thought that I would ever become, and I knew that I had to change. So I left law enforcement, taught myself business, and worked in sales, sold everything. I did a lot of commercial vehicle stuff, so like box trucks, tractor trailers, fire trucks, that kind of stuff. That led to a career in commercial real estate development, where I turned buildings into co-working spaces. And COVID hit while I was doing that, and that of course killed the commercial real estate development world. And I taught myself a recession-proof career in tech. I taught myself a software called Salesforce, and worked as a Salesforce implementer for a Salesforce partner. And the whole time there was just kind of this stirring in my life that, even though I was separated from the job and I was separated from my time in the military and law enforcement, they just weren't improving for me. And my kids were getting older. I have a 22-year-old and a soon to be 16-year-old. So we knew that we wanted to give them a childhood that they would remember and that they would love and admire. So as we're getting older, we're like, hey, how do you guys want to close out your childhood chapter of your life? Do you want to continue living in suburbia? Do you want to move out to land? Do you want to move to the city? What do you want that to look like? And so they wanted land, so we moved 2 hours away to very rural northeast Alabama. And for any country music fans out there, I live just north of a city called Fort Payne, which is the home of the band Alabama. So you still see Teddy and Randy out at Walmart or wherever, out in the, it's just it's the most surreal thing
Yeah.
for a country music fan that grew up in their heyday, just to see those two guys just out. Weird. I went to a fundraiser for a friend of mine's nonprofit this past weekend, and it was hosted at a place called Cook Castle. And Jeff Cook is one of the Alabama band members who just recently passed away, and his wife has a foundation there, and they had that fundraiser at Jeff Cook's house. So weird. And so we moved out here, and my wife sat me down on the porch one day and said, "If you don't start getting better, we can't be married anymore." So, it not. I mean, I wasn't falling apart.
Mhm.
I wasn't. I wasn't out getting hammered every night. I wasn't, living a rough lifestyle. I mentally wasn't better than I had been ever. So I found an organization called the Boulder Crest Foundation and went through one of their programs called Warrior Path, where they teach you kind of how to live life, knowing what you know, how you transition from living that life of always being on to living a life where you use those tools rather than those tools using you. And went to a follow-on program there called or back that up just a second. So the Warrior Path program I went to was at a place called Camp Southern Ground, and Camp Southern Ground is owned by Zach Brown from Zach Brown Band. So they have a follow-on program at Camp Southern Ground called Warrior Week. And while I was at Warrior Week, I had one of the cadre pull me aside, and he said, "Brian, I looked through your file, um, and I didn't see it, so I want to ask you a question. Have you ever been assessed for a brain injury?" And I said, "No, I've never been assessed for a brain injury, never been blown up, was never, never hit my head, I don't think, hard enough to ever lose consciousness for, days on end or any of that stuff." And he said, "Okay, let me ask you a question." He said, "I noticed that when we did the last evolution, when we put the blindfold on you, you slowed way down. You were very unsteady on your feet. You've never noticed, or you've never been assessed for a brain injury." I said, "No, never." He said, "Okay, let me ask you another question. When you're in the shower and you're washing your hair and you get soap in your eyes, when you look up to wash the soap out of your eyes, do you have to put your hand on the side of the shower to make it so that you don't feel like you're going to fall down?" And I was like, "How in the world could you know that?"
Yep. Yep.
And he goes, "Me too."
Yep.
So I went to a 3 week intensive outpatient program at University of Florida, Jacksonville, at their UF Health campus there through a program called Avalon Action
Oh
Alliance.
yeah.
They provide uh, uh, free TBI treatments for people with mild to moderate TBIs. They can't treat severe because it's just a different treatment protocol. But went and got that stuff sorted out. Spent 3 weeks with every day with migraines and throwing up as we got my vestibular system back in order. So both of those programs, they had a musical component to them, and I fell in love with the way that music made me feel and my ability to regulate my own emotions through music. So I found this organization called Guitars for Vets, applied for their program, and while I was waiting to be accepted into the program, they actually had a job posting for a development director. Their longtime development director, she left, and they had this vacancy. So I just, on a whim, sent them a resume, and uh, they ended up hiring me. And so
Wow.
while I worked there, I went through the program. My graduate guitar. I keep looking over here because my graduate guitar is sitting right there, and it sits there hanging on my wall. I pick it up and I play it multiple times a week, and just never get any better about it. So
Let me ask you, is there a difference to how you program or tailor your lessons for veterans who have PTS versus veterans who have TBIs?
no, we the only tailoring that we do is based around student proficiency.
Okay.
So if a student isn't progressing at the pace at which um, our program is written,
Mhm.
then we just slow it down.
Okay.
So there are the big thing for us is we're not a clinical program. We're a complementary program. We fall under the prevention and postvention side of
Mhm.
everything, but not intervention.
Okay.
So we don't have any. We're not a clinical program. We don't have any clinicians on staff. It's not delivered through any type of mental health facility or anything like that.
It's what I call an alternate modality. You
Right.
are something that, you sort of treat that sympathetic nervous system, and you are part of treating symptoms. You're
Yep.
helping calm that down so you're not constantly in that fight or flight. It's part of what I'm trying to bring together so we're all in one place at the same time, and able to give it to people. What do you
Mhm.
measure as success then in your program for veterans? We're not trying to get to one place. Not everybody is the same. How do you measure success in that 10 weeks?
So we measure success. Number one, are they showing up? Because that getting veterans out of the house is the number one barrier to them completing a program.
Mhm.
So are they showing up? Are they progressing? And are they retaining the information that we're giving them? So are they getting better? Do we see an increase in their proficiency? We're not asking them to play a concert at the end of these 10 weeks, but at the end, when we do a graduation ceremony, we invite them back every month for jam sessions, so they get to continue coming and showing up and being around all these other people that have been through the same program. And the key for us is the community. That's why we prefer to have in-person lessons versus just doing everything online. It would be easy for us to switch it over to a totally online program. We do have a cyber chapter, but we want all of these people to go to an in-person chapter because that's really what it's about. We just I firmly believe that, you know, there's been billions and billions of dollars spent on this whole study of how we prevent veteran suicide. And the reality is that we know the answer. The answer is community.
Yes.
The problem is that you can't monetize that at a high level. So, you know, we continue to pick and pick and pick and try to get layers and layers and layers deep, and we end up talking about things like medication and all this kind of stuff. Well, if you just get people back together in community, a lot of those problems go away. It's the isolation.
It's the us issue. Bingo.
Right.
It is not them. You hit it right there. We have a country of civilians and outside people who think it's enough to write a check. And I am not actually criticizing that. That's what we are sort of designed to do, write to a service organization. That's good. We all need that,
Mhm.
right? We're running these organizations. But at that point, you've written your check and you think, I'm going to let them do what they do best because I
Right.
don't know how to handle it. They do. It's not enough anymore. All of us are well intentioned in doing our job as these nonprofits. We do know what we're doing within these, but then we all get together at these weekends where all of us sit around and think, why isn't the needle moving? Why isn't aren't the statistics changed? And I personally have been talking to different groups of people that have been affected directly by these tragedies. And the answer from them is, why aren't you asking us? We live among the communities who are actually just not engaging with us. They think it's about them, they being the community of civilians that we live among and that we get the donations from, and that year after year we go to and we ask for support, and then we sit in rooms and we sit among each other and go, even though we all individually are experts in our fields, we aren't working collectively together to get to them. It is not a them problem, it's an us problem. And until we put all of us together so that they can reach us at one time, in one space, in one place. We meet them. Us meet
Hmm.
them. And that's why I like you. I like Chris Lancia. I like Matt Watkins because you guys get it. I see you post time and time again. It's a community issue. It is not a mental health issue. And so part of what I'm trying to do at GenVets is get it in people's minds that something like your program, we can put in one place. I am not trying to reinvent the wheel, guys. This is not a really difficult thing to do. We need to get all of our services together so that they're available nationwide in a group in one
Hmm.
place. And that's what I'm doing starting in Maryland. And I have the support to do it. We just need to have it so that there's one place 365 days a year, non-prescriptive, no doctors involved. Look, there's a place for that. I'm not replacing therapy.
Sure.
I'm not replacing Warrior Camp. The Avalon Action Alliance is 100% necessary. It's brilliant. It does its job. But there's also needs to be the place, the space, the time, the pace for those who have had a bad day and need to go to a horse or to make leather or farm or do whatever the things are, play the guitar, have yoga, have what, and everyone is different. And what works one day may not work another day. So it is. And the community are the ones who need to bring that stuff to them. And they need to start understanding what's going on with them because they are you.
Right. Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. And I would even go a little further and say that it's incumbent upon veterans to speak up and say those things about, like, when if you're struggling, you need to speak up and say, "Hey, I wish there was something like this in our community."
Guess how I got the idea? They are speaking up. We aren't listening. I mean that with all due respect.
Sure, sure, yeah.
A lot of people are saying, are listening, go, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then they move on. Chris is the one who's saying, I want to hear it.
Hmm.
There's
Yeah.
a lot of, listening. Are we hearing it? And that's why I created Gen Vets is so that I said, let's hear it. And then I say to the service organizations and to VA, state and federal, let's start hearing what they're saying. We haven't, we're listening, we say we hear it, but we're telling them what they need. We're not
Yeah.
hearing them. And I think this might be the start of a different way to at least see, because we got to stop doing the same thing that we're doing over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Sean Moore's the one who said her husband took his life in 2024. I do not want to look at the year he becomes one of those statistics, and I am not going to see the needle hasn't been moved again. Damn it.
Hmm. Yeah. And it won't move until we get to a place to where we understand that. I have a big problem with the word evidence based. I absolutely despise that word because coming from the legal profession on the very first responder side of it, when I hear the word evidence based, I think of it as a legal term. Evidence. What are the things that are actually there? But when those terms are used in the veteran nonprofit space, that the word evidence gets to be defined by healthcare systems.
Or VA and whoever is defining what the source of the evidence. Like, for
Right. Yeah.
example, VA published their statistics about the claims and the accuracy rate, which apparently is 94%. They're accurate 94% in their decisions. I don't know anyone that claims 94% accuracy rate. I, I said to someone, I'm trying to be respectful because I think VA is a wonderful, as a whole wonderful, but I am tired. And I said I would not be the one to come out and throw mud. I don't think that does anybody any good because I'm trying to bring veterans back to all of the
Right.
programs that are there and life-saving and life-changing. What their interface is, though, is with the Veterans Benefits Administration,
Right.
which is the public facing part of VA, and they're not getting the reputation they deserve for all the wonderful things they do, because the part they interface with and have all the experience with is a part that is failing.
Right.
And when they come out and they tell the people that are having these experiences, oh no, we're right 94% of the time. I'm losing. I'm the one who's been telling them for the last, I mean, I've been doing this over 20 years, and in particular the pro bono side for as long, and I don't know what to say anymore.
Yeah, you have to be careful when you allow certain entities to determine what the meaning of the word evidence is. Right? Like
Yes.
it's so funny. I bemoan this all the time. I'm such an old man, like get off my grass, you young whippersnappers, about this. But like words have meanings, and those meanings are important. And when we allow people to change the meaning of a word to suit their purpose, it's such a dangerous thing. Like the term my truth. Well, I want to tell you my truth. No, 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 no. That is not your truth. It is your experience, and that is totally valid and is absolutely worth listening to. I'm sure that you have that opinion for the right reasons. But let's not start redefining the word truth to fit your narrative. Let's not do that. And we shouldn't redefine the word evidence to fit a narrative either. Like the word evidence should mean what it means, and not have the people who have the deepest pockets determine what that word means. We really need to get away from that.
I love what you just said. I think that's brilliant. Words do matter. I say that all the time in this house. I get teased a lot, but I mean, I get teased a lot about a lot of things because I talk so much. But honestly, that is 100% true. Well, let me ask you, do you have a memorable story about a veteran whose life you think has been changed by this program in particular that you could share?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mentioned earlier about the Tommy Emmanuel event in Oregon. So our instructor in Oregon, his name's David Welch. David Welch will tell you that this program absolutely changed his life. He was the first person that I ever heard say, "Every day I have a choice between putting a guitar in my hand or a bottle in my hand, and so I just choose the guitar."
That's amazing.
So this program, I mean, and that's just one of 100 stories that I could tell about people who felt hopeless, who felt like they had no other options in life, and when they're given an exposure to something as powerful as music. See, music is the only thing that we participate in that engages both sides of the brain at the same time. It's the only thing. So that's why it's so transformative. It's why it's so powerful. It brings balance and harmony internally, and there's not many things in life that we do that do that. And it's all because of frequency, right? So I'm a homesteader. I keep bees, and a beehive vibrates in the key of C. This is why so many people seek out keeping bees as a therapy modality, is because a beehive vibrates in the key of C. The human body vibrates in the key of C.
I didn't know that.
When we are dysregulated, we can literally go stand right next to a beehive, and just by listening and being in their presence, it naturally puts us back into a natural rhythm. And it's so powerful. As a matter of fact, there's a guy in the Ozarks in Missouri. He builds these things called bee beds, and it's a structure that has beehives underneath it.
No, there's no way on the face. I've
Oh
been
yeah,
very calm as you're describing this, but now you've crossed a line.
it is so cool.
No,
I would love one day to build one of these on my property, but
I could
oh my
never
gosh.
visit you. I already can't. I was going to try and be calm because I know people love their bees. The whole thing scopes me out. I'm sorry. I know, but no.
Oh
So
yeah.
you sleep on a bed of bees?
Oh yeah, they're safely below you. They're
Oh,
safely below you.
no. Oh, even on
Oh,
my farm, even on the one I'm building for everyone, I gotta like there's got to be at least 1,000 acres, and then the one furthest from where I'm ever gonna be, you all can have your hive, but my God, a bed of bees?
a bed. It's 4 hives that you're sleeping on. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh man, I can't wait to get mine built. It's gonna be awesome.
Are the producers saying the vibration and sound brings relaxation?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
unless it sends you directly into shock, stroke, and heart attack all at the same time. I do not think so. You know what?
Uh,
I would love to see anyone write in about this, and we can have a community discussion on that. No, I can't. I tried. I tried really hard to be
tried.
focused and professional because I know how many people love it. There's no way. There's no way. It is my version of hell. Like, they say that hell is not really like fire and stuff like that. It's your worst, nightmare or whatever. It would be me walking into a room of beehives. I would throw my own child through a bus before I had a bee encounter. There's no question. And it just would be a visceral reaction because they terrify me that much.
Oh man, I custom build my own style of hives.
What is
And
wrong with you?
um well so at my homestead we don't believe in the factory style of farming, right? So like I have I'm down to 28, unfortunately, 28 pasture raised poultry birds that go off to freezer camp in a couple weeks.
Is freezer camp another nice way of saying death camp?
Yeah,
Freezer camp?
freezer camp. Yeah.
Is that
Uh,
your truth?
yeah. That's what I tell them to make them feel better. Look, all my animals only ever have one bad day at my place. One bad day. Unfortunately, it's the worst day you could ever have. But these animals, they're good. They're raised for this. Someone's going to steward their life for the short time that they're on Earth. I would rather it be me, and so I can dispatch them properly and humanely.
To their maker.
Yep. We 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 believe in doing things just a little bit differently here. So uh, everybody is like, yes, of course, that's the way it should be, right? But then you talk about bees, and bees don't live in these square boxes that stack vertically. Bees live in places that they grow horizontally, not vertically. So a traditional style beehive, it's called a Langstroth beehive. Um, and a traditional Langstroth style beehive is factory farming of bees. So we don't practice that with any other animal. So I'm not going to practice it with bees. So we build long, uh, they're called top bar hives, where it's just a big box, and then you pull each one of the things out, and the bees all stay clustered together in one section, and then I take the honey from the other section twice a year, and they live nice, happy lives at the back of my property. And
Until Jen comes and burns them. Oh, I'm sort of kidding. That's why you never tell me where you live, ever. Don't give me your address, not even if I ask for it for a Christmas card. 'Cause I'm lying to you. I'm telling you right now, I'm
coming to
lying.
burn the beehives.
And this is all related to music because you said that they're in C.
Hmm.
So we're still talking music. We are totally on topic here.
We're still totally on topic. Yeah.
Well, speaking about rural areas, how do you get to the rural veterans? Because that's really really important to what I'm doing. Michelle Lang is Operation Honor Rural Veterans, and I work with her very closely. That is so important to what we're trying to do nationwide. I'm asked about it all the time. I really want to make sure that those who are listening understand how to get to you, how this would work. How do you do it?
So, oh man, one of my other passion projects is rural economic development.
Okay.
So, reaching people in rural communities is very, very tough, especially if it's people who have moved to rural communities after they have had careers, right?
Mhm.
So like people in their mid 40s, early 50s that choose to move to rural communities, they are choosing a deliberately quieter lifestyle. So they're not attending these networking events. They're not going to these veteran gatherings and veteran get-togethers. And it and I think it's really also speaks to this idea of it's incumbent on veterans to say things, because when you move out to these rural communities, there aren't these natural eco veteran specific ecosystems that you get to immerse yourself in to learn about these things. You reintegrate yourself into the actual community, and that's something that we haven't really done well as a country really since like World War II. Is after World War II we developed a basically a warrior class of people that could be professional military people that build identities around military service and stuff like that. The invention of law enforcement officers, and and that being a lifelong thing, that's a relatively new phenomenon, and it allows veterans to keep themselves in this bubble. But when you move to a rural area, that bubble it can't exist because it becomes a bubble of one. So you have to learn how to reintegrate into community, which I think it ultimately is also something that is super beneficial for veterans to learn how to do, is to reintegrate into whatever your community that you choose to live, reintegrate back into that community and learn how to use the things that you were taught to better that community. So to reach rural veterans, you have to be involved in that community and have programs that are specifically offered for veterans. So for instance, I mentioned earlier I was at a fundraising gala for a friend of mine. He runs the only non-government funded nonprofit in our county. Our county is 78,000 people. We are as rural can be. And um, in that program, he has veteran specific services that he offers inside of those programs. So that's how you reach those
Okay.
veterans, is you have to be where they are.
Right.
And it's not something that you can scale, and it's really hard to develop a framework for doing something like that, if your whole focus is to attract people that reach veterans. So in my county of 78,000 people, there's 3,200 veterans that live in this county. That's it.
You say that's it, but I still think that's not a bad percentage out of 78,000. I mean, you still got
Yeah.
a chunk. I mean,
Yeah. Well, to put that into perspective, so two counties over is Madison County, which is where Huntsville is,
mhm.
right? So in Huntsville, they have 90,000 veterans. And I think gosh, I think they're 350,000 people,
Okay.
400,000 people, something like
Well,
that.
you've got a
So the
large
percentage,
military base, down
yeah. They have infinitely more. They have Redstone
installations.
Arsenal over there. It's a big defense contracting place now. So it draws in a lot of people. But when you look at population density of veterans, they're integrated back into the community. They have, like, all my stuff sits in a Foot Locker at the end of my bed, right? So I don't have big I love me walls or any of that kind of stuff. And
I
I
love
have
you
yet to
more.
be at a veteran's house out here where they have that stuff up. Now, back when I was in Metro Atlanta, yeah, you'd walk in and you'd like they'd have their rooms and all that kind of stuff. Well, out here there's no space for that because everything has to be utilized, especially in rural farming communities. Every single square foot has to be utilized for doing stuff on the farm.
So let me ask you, if this project that I'm talking about that I'm starting in Maryland, but have every intention of, going state to state. I work with the state directors. I think the most important association we have in this country is the National Association for State Directors of Veterans Affairs. I've thought
Hmm.
that for years from the beginning of starting it. It was the greatest introduction to an organization I had because veteran care starts at home. It can't
Yep.
all be on big VA. It can't.
Right.
And so I like to think that working with them and to go to the state legislatures to get them more funding and more focus. I'm not saying Big VA shouldn't be doing, a lot of it, if not the bulk of it, but we have to give more resources to the states to take care of. So even with that, even with getting though however many of these I call them farms. They don't all have to be farms, facilities, terrain based facilities
Hmm.
scattered throughout, so that within an hour and a half, these populations have. And I know in rural America it's not easy for everyone to drive off or get to, but let's not worry about that problem yet. Let's just theoretically say within an hour you could get to someplace that has the ability to offer the guitars for veterans,
Yeah.
and offer all of these things, a place to go that has everything, and that's the type of thing I'm talking about. Would that be something you would be interested in, that you think would be viable?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think a good avenue for that is, a nat. So every county in America has a VA rep.
Yep.
Every county. So
And I work with them too. I love Andrew. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
I'm
and
going to
it's
him too.
it's federally mandated.
Yes.
So
They don't have any money either.
yeah, they don't
Kind
have
of shocking.
any money. They
And
don't have
that's
any
why
money.
we have so much representation issues too, because they're not. And that's a shame.
Yeah, no, I agree. Getting information into, so it's a marketing problem is really what it all boils down to. It's so difficult to at scale broadcast what you're doing because we live in a time now that is so noisy because of everything that happens on here, everything that happens on your computer. People are consuming more and more content, and it's so hard to to get noticed and to get the attention of people because of these slot machines in our pockets that are
Yes.
constantly vying for our attention. So I know it's a marketing problem. I don't know what the solution to that is, other than finding people who really give a damn and investing into those people.
Well, I think you're one of them, and I'll invest in you. I think you're great. How can people who aren't musicians help with the cause? Is there something we can do that you want to give a shout out? Tell them how they can help.
Absolutely. So it costs $500 to put a veteran through our program. And now that doesn't include, that's only program cost. That's not my salary. It's not the executive director's salary or any of that stuff. That's just the cost of the program. So for every $500 we raise, that's another veteran that goes through our program. So uh, there's ways to get around that. So if you have guitars that are of value that are sitting there not just collecting dust, and you want to turn that into impact, we take guitar donations. We sell them on a gear exchange website that we have on Sweetwater, and then we turn your donation of one guitar into 5 or 10 guitars, depending on the value of the guitar that you donate, and that helps to put veterans through. So you can give guitars, you can give money through online giving, you can give from your donor advised fund, you can give through stocks. It just, the reality of the situation is it costs money to run the program, and I wish that it didn't, but it does. So the best way to help if you're not a musician and you can't spread the word about us is repost content when you come across it, or just sit down and have a conversation with a veteran and look them in the eye one day and say, "Hey, are you okay?"
That's great.
And mean it.
I mean it. Be ready to listen to the answer. Right.
Right.
What's
Yep.
what's the web address?
The web address is guitarforvets.org. You can do FOR or the number four,
Okay.
guitarsforvets.org. And if people want to reach out to me directly, my email address is brian@guitarsforvets.org. And man, I'd love to have a conversation with you.
BRIAN.
Yep. Yeah, the correct way. Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for spending this time with me today. This was a great conversation. I look forward to continue to work with you.
Awesome. Me too, Jen. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.